Have you always looked people in the eye like this in your podcast?
There's definitely a difference in the depth of the conversation if those eyes aren't met.
Sound is the golden thread in everything that I do. I combine breathing and meditation and the instruments and some shamanic elements to have a deep inner journey. I know how it is to go deep inside myself, so I'm supporting you to go to the places where you want to go and maybe not want to go, but it might be good to check it out. And then the sound, like the vibrations of these instruments played with intention and in a specific frequency, it's also scientifically proven, but it brings you in a certain state of awareness, state of consciousness. My intention is to be a vessel for the divine to come through me, to serve these people and honor their intentions, to create the best possible sound experience for their personal process.
No idea what that says.
It's
some sort of...
it's a music studio in Berlin.
Mm.
And a bit more up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where David Bowie recorded 2 of his albums.
Okay.
And I just walked in at some point.
Did he drink out of this mug?
Maybe. Could be.
I think he did.
Yeah.
He signed the bottom. Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
But the I was like, it's like the masculine and the feminine right here.
Mm-hmm.
The structure, and then the chaos in the middle.
Oh, Zen, come. My dog is sick. Come, let's go outside. Yeah.
So why is the couch just gonna sit there? Hello.
It's okay, Zen.
Don't get close to me. That's my. I should do that to people.
Misschien even the line, yeah.
It's all good. We embrace this.
It's true. Love
It's
you, Zen.
the best teacher, right?
Mm.
How to regulate your space and your nervous system.
Yeah. It's also cool because she is a Japanese Akita, and then we named her Zen. Because I realized how many times a day do you say the name of your dog?
This is true.
So it's every day we say 30, 40 times Zen, Zen. And it's hard to say that mad also, because Zen is obviously the Japanese philosophy to just be more centered and calm down.
Let's dive into that. How the power of words impact our physiology, psychology, everything.
Yeah.
It is just vibration. It is just sound. But they have such power. I love that. I'd like to see more kids named Zen and see the meta-analysis on what that does to the parents.
That would be really cool research, actually, yeah.
So many ways into this conversation. I know. I appreciate you. Yeah, let me come to your space. Maybe we'll start with the cacao, because I'm experiencing it right now. It's good to start with a cacao, and I know, well, I'm sat with the person who's, brought it. Cacao, the name. Why the cacao?
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking, and thank you for inviting me into your podcast.
Welcome, brother.
And thank you, Peter, for connecting us.
Yes.
Yeah, the name cacao came during a 48-hour ceremony with myself and cacao and a really big mushroom. And I was sitting at the fire, and I was the whole time so presently looking at it. And I asked for what could be the best name for this brand, for this company, something that's universal beyond language that everyone can understand. And I love sound and the power of sound and how it's transcending, all the languages that we speak. And then I realized, what is the sound that you make when you drink something that you really, really love? And I was like, cacao. I was like, wow, that's beautiful. And then I was like, I'm not sure if it's because I'm now in this psychedelic experience that I think it's really beautiful.
I've been there, brother.
or the next day, and then
That's
also
why integration's important,
Mm.
and not make any big decisions after.
Exactly, yeah. So I took time to integrate it, let it land, and then the next day I shared it with my team, and they all loved it. And not that long after, the mantra also came, or in advertising you would call it the slogan, which is "Enjoy the now." So it also rhymes, cacao, enjoy the now.
Love that. Yeah, the power of the No one's saying that and not enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
A
it's also
way
the
in.
first sound of the universe. So there is like
So
obviously like
similar to Om, right?
yeah, you have Ohm, and there are different theories because it's hard to really know what actually
Yeah.
happened millions of years ago. But apparently the hum is the first sound, and that's also Jonathan Goldman is one of the most interesting sound practitioners that I know. He wrote a book also about the power of humming, and he describes like the hum is also what a lot of babies use or moms to calm down babies, and it's so deep, like the like it's really like nurturing, like taking care of yourself and each other. So that's also like all in this brand called Cacao.
You even say it, or you even say it to like agree, right? Yeah, you just did it without even knowing. Yeah, the universal sound. I've been told a few times that the Om is. Can we dispel some myths around that, or like unknowns? Is it the universal sound?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's always hard to know if something is like.
Well, how are they measuring that? Where does that information come from? Just because so many people are, expressing it. Maybe we can create the universal sound, right?
Yeah, I think it's something really deep. I've also seen videos because I'm also a sound practitioner myself, and I've been studying sound for the last 3 years really deeply. But actually, my entire life, I've always been drawn to sound, and Ohm is like this. It's basically like the more something gets vocalized, it's kind of like a frequency that universally people can tap into, and it's in a way, what I've learned about it, it's like an ancient technology that keeps evolving into the now. The more that people keep sharing it, there are also like all these Buddhist mantras that they keep saying and chanting. It's all in this present moment, and it keeps being spread, and that's why it stays alive and relevant in this moment. So Om is like this, the start of the universe. It's like being born, and the more people start sharing it, it stays alive in a way. So it's very fascinating how that's all interconnected. And what I've also experienced is a lot of people feel the deep connection with it. Like some babies cannot sleep, and for example, friends of mine, they sing Om to their baby. They did it already when he was still in the womb. And now if the little boy cannot sleep, they say Om, and they say, should we Om together? And they do it together. And then in a few minutes, he's like, okay, and then he falls asleep. So
yeah, there's a few
beautiful.
viral videos out there with babies screaming, and then people going, "Oh," and then the baby just goes, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a song by Beautiful Chorus,
Mm.
and they have a song called, and it just goes, and it's the most incredible symphony of just that. It's so beautiful to put on. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, hum rhythm or something like that, or something. But yeah, it's so powerful as a sound to soothe, to activate your vagus nerve. Also, there's certain sounds and resonance that you can hum. I think humming and rubbing your ears and doing other things probably that activate your vagus nerve.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely linked to that. I remember sitting in Vipassana meditation, and I was aware that all I was doing was not a lot, well, what I thought, but then you tune into the sensations, what's actually going on here. We're all just synchronizing our breath together, and you're giving so much space to just observe the breath and just breathe and relaxing throughout the hour of sitting down. And then the body, as you said, like your diaphragm, you just start to relax in ways that you didn't thought you were holding. And then the breath is really just the key to unlock like stillness and relaxation. and just come back to, I guess, the parasympathetic state that we're not often in.
Mm.
And I thought that was more powerful than doing all the other kind of mental meditation thought stuff. It's actually that I'm just learning how to breathe again.
Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah. Sometimes even just one single breath before making a decision can make a world of difference. Just one moment of, and then already I feel more clarity in my mind. Even in now this podcast, in the beginning I felt a bit like, my guitar fell and I was a bit like nervous and we're trying to find the best place in my living room. And now this extra breath, and again, if I do it again, I feel more present, more at home in my own home and home in your podcast. So.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
So when did this all start for you? When did you start to get a little bit curious? How did you find yourself into the ceremony? Where the came in?
That's a good one. Yeah, so I think in 2013, I was working in advertising for 7 years and, working almost 24/7, at least in my mind, like always on the go, like really like in that, trying to climb some kind of ladder and, drinking 7 cups of coffee a day and every day almost go to a festival or a party or an event and network drinks and then drink a lot and spend the whole night and then wake up early again, coffee, slam in and working. And I just kept going and I had no idea what I was doing to my body, to myself, and to the people around me. Not really taking good care of myself, actually. And then, like anything, if you keep doing it and it's not sustainable, at some point it burns out or burns down. And for me, the first awakening that I experienced was in a vision quest. So I had 48 hours alone in nature, in a circle of...
Intentional?
Yeah. Someone invited me, a friend of mine, became a friend, and now, and I was like, what? And he said, yeah, we're building this new company and it's bringing people into nature, and it comes from the tradition of in the Indian tradition where they send the boys to the forest for a week or two, and then they have to survive by themselves. So they don't get any food, no weapons, you just have to figure it out. And when you come back, or if you come back, then you're a man. That's kind of an initiation that we don't really have anymore. Obviously, a lot of work with Sacred Sons that I also do, that I think you're also really speaking a lot about, is about that initiation. This is like a small version of it.
Yeah.
And I spent 48 hours in this circle of 6 meters with no food, no phone, nothing to write on, no watch, no idea of what time it is. Just be with myself. And that was now 10 years ago, and I had never meditated. And I couldn't even do it. I was sitting for 5 minutes and I was like, all right, I'm done. And they said, if you cannot sit still, you can also just kind of walk a bit in circles. So I started to walk in like this infinity sign, and the grass started to be like flatter and flatter, and you saw this whole pattern. And at some point I started to say out loud everything that I was thinking. I was like, there's nobody else close by anyway. So just saying everything from my birth until dying, and family, friends, like good times, bad times. And at some point, I don't know, after how long, 2 or 3 hours, I experienced an empty mind for the first time in my life. And it was so incredible that I tried to think about something, and I was like, yeah, I've thought about everything. And I was like high on life. I felt this connection with nature that I just felt so present, so happy, so relaxed. And then I got all these like insights and downloads, and it was the first time that I realized that there's something else, or this first look behind the veil, or however you want to call it, that we live in a different world than I thought, at least at that point. And then I started to sort of discover more about the inner world, like what's inside me, and how can I shift that to create a better outer reality.
Yeah, powerful. I've definitely had moments like that, where your perception of what you once thought was real, was making up your personal reality. What Joe Dispenza calls your personal reality, your personality. You kind of break down that, and then a lot shifts, and you've almost parts of you are wrong, and it creates your identity or your ego, which is wrapped in. That's what the power of initiation is. It's to go through something that changes you. That really, you have to let go of those old versions of yourself that, transitioning into something new.
Do you remember for you, what was the first time when you had that, I mean, I don't know if you want to call it an awakening or opening or like...
I would love there to be one. I always think, I was searching for that just so it would be a significant point that I could speak about. But it was such a transition over the time of being curious and following like just a deeper sense of really trying to move away from pain, really. That was what was the precursor to seek out different ways of being, or being more curious and open to meditation, to yoga. Yoga was really the first one, or practice, or when I was in Australia, I just remember crying after the practice and not really understanding why, but I felt safe to do so. And I also had so much emotion just leave my body. There was something that was just shifted in that moment, and I was like, fuck, this is going to be a long journey. Because there's no going back from that point. It felt like, it was just like, okay, this is it is like a tiny moment of initiation into something new. And I just knew from that point I was going to have to follow that call to seek out more spaces and to understand what that was. It's like a peak experience, but in a yoga class, I wouldn't say it was that much of a peak experience. And it can be through psychedelics, it can be through meditation, it can be through just death, someone dying, and then you reassessing certain things. Yeah, there's many ways in, isn't there?
Yeah.
But I say that, and traveling really opened my heart, and that was really the part of the yoga journey as well.
Yeah. Can I reflect on what you just shared?
Go for it.
Because when I hear what you say, it sounds almost
I knew we'd
the same.
do this.
I was like, wow, because that for me also, that moment 10 years ago, in the moment it felt like, wow, but I wasn't thinking that deeply about it. More like, oh yeah, this is another way of looking at things, and beautiful experience. But only until recently I started to look back like, hey, where does this all kind of started? And I realized the significance of that small thing was actually a really big thing, right? So how I heard what you say is like, wow, that's a big shift. You realize that now the journey is starting, or a new part of the journey. It's just a perspective how you see it. But yeah, that was my reflection on what you shared.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of crossover, I feel. Just in our generational thing, right? Of just being on that ladder that we don't really know why. And I bought into a story, and I'm like, why? You start to reflect. I think it's creating the space to reflect on certain things. But for me, it was always rooted in like what makes us human. Like, why? The biggest question is like, why are we here? And it's still guiding me, I'm cool to ask what was the way into Sacred Sons, and how did that journey? When did that come in? When did that start to make sense to you? And what drew you into that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think 6 years ago, after I quit my job, I traveled the world. The plan was to go for 6 months. It became 7 years.
The 7 continents.
7 continents, 7 years. It's something with 7. And then along the way, I met Neil, who's one of the co-founders of Sacred Sons, in Panama, when he was living there with his wife, and their firstborn was just born. And a mutual friend of ours introduced me to him and his family, and we went to his home, and he was on his computer creating the Kajabi course of, I don't know, Sacred Sons version 1. I don't know how it was called by then.
Wow.
And I was really intrigued. I was like, wow, it's so cool that you're doing it. And I was really interested. And I said, whenever this comes to Europe, let me know. And then, I'm in. And then 5 years later, or 5.5 years,
that long.
There was an immersion in Amsterdam, the first one. And I was following Sacred Sons for a while on social media. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, I had no doubt. I was like, I'm going to go. And it was really part of my path to develop a stronger understanding of my own masculine energy in a healthy way. I kind of suppressed the learning curve there, and I was really focused on the feminine side of myself. And obviously it's both, but really like this healthy masculine environment, like I didn't find it. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I was reading books and podcasts, and it's not the same, you know. It's I believe that at least I grow the strongest through experiences. And Sacred Sons does an incredible job. Like, they really know what they're doing, and also know that they don't know everything. But how they treat each other and me and ourselves, and you know, the different elements of the programs that they offer have really shifted a lot in myself, and with that in all my relationships in a really positive way.
Yeah, beautiful, man. It is important, very important, that continues. And I think, like a lot of men that find more, let's say, spiritual, like authentic ways of being in the world, the masculine sides of us as boys, as adolescents, it got me in trouble. It got me, labelled a lot, like bad and loud and aggressive, and it definitely started to reject that side of me. I think that's what happens when people start to come into a more conscious, reflective way, right? So you reject the masculine sides of you that would have caused more pain and destruction in your life. So then you swing all the other way to the feminine sides, getting into yoga and getting into meditation, and it's not a healthy balance. And that's what these spaces are really doing. They're really speaking to that. And you can't do that when you just look on the internet or read books. It gives you a lovely understanding, and it can feel good because you can kind of get it intellectually, but it's not actually, it's nothing compares to being in the arena.
Yeah,
and
that's so true.
Immersions, that's what that name really rings true. It's like you are immersed in it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like a few weeks ago, I co-facilitated an immersion with Sacred Sons and Peter and Gijs and a whole group of brothers in Amsterdam. And that was really interesting to also experience it, you know, to receive the men that were coming for the first time. And I could relate because 1.5 years ago, I was, you know, that man that was, you know, nervous about it and sort of didn't know who to look into the eyes. And then even that, just looking a man into the eyes, like we're doing it now for 30 minutes and I feel really comfortable with it. But before that was very challenging, you know, and there's so many people that never look people longer than 3 seconds in the eyes. Which is kind of weird, you know, like, and that's all because of all the masks we're wearing, and this work helps to talk about it. You know, again, the elephant in the room, like, what is your biggest fear? What do you see in this man? Like all the like sacred mirrors, like these exercises to see each other for real, and that's only because they create this safe container to be able to do that, to open up for it, and then it's being released, and it will never come back because you've faced it, you've looked it in the eye, and then it's alchemy, and then boom, it becomes your strength.
Beautifully said. Yeah, looking in the eyes. I think at the root of every person's heart, it is that striving to feel seen, to just be loved and accepted. Like we thrive in community. Like that is the place for humans, social creatures. And when we haven't got that, when it's not normalized to look in the eyes, to look in the direct eyes of someone who has been through a lot of similar stuff and as a human has found their way into the same space, it's a powerful dynamic to find yourself in, to normalize those ways of being with each other. And then the body just remembers what it feels like.
Have you always looked people in the eye like this in your podcast? Since the beginning, or
I don't really think about it that much, but I'll have to look back. I'll have to have a look. I'm going to say no. That's probably not been the case. It feels like I have. My ego's like, yeah, of course. But I'm not sure, actually. But yeah, it feels good. And there's a difference when that doesn't happen. It's really about making the other person feel, safe enough to go there, to go deep. But then there's definitely a difference in the depth of the conversation if those eyes aren't met. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful, man. So normalizing the spaces, I think that's what is true and is needed. Which doesn't take much, really. I was looking on Sigurdsson's website, actually, and I was quite shocked. Because in my mind, they're global organisation doing incredible work. But I looked, and maybe the stats are wrong, but at this moment in time, there was like 60 facilitators, leaders, more than 10,000 men worked with. And I was like, fuck, that's not a lot. Like in comparison to how many men, how many men are out there, how many men I know. And I'm just like, wow, there's so much more work to do, because I have to check my own bias of how much I think it's really rooting into a culture, because that's really a small amount of people. Like, they're doing amazing work, we speak about it, I speak about it with people, but it's also like, no, we need to keep raising that flag, and keep fighting the fight.
I also see that if you imagine these 10,000 men that they've worked with, and then imagine like all the work that they're doing.
Sure. Yeah, this is where
it's all these, like, a lot of them have their own men circles.
Sure.
Or other just like me, I have different companies or projects I'm part of, and I know that joining a few of those events with Sacred Sons, I've definitely contributed to the impact I'm making with all the things I'm part of, and and then also talking about it, like in a podcast like this or on social media, and the work is beyond also what we see or what the numbers are like on the website.
This is true. Yeah, maybe I should feed that in.
Yeah, and I also still...
This is reaching millions, don't worry. We're putting the name out there.
Yeah, and I also feel that obviously there is so much more work to do, so it's definitely also an invitation to...
For sure.
Yeah, to open up and let more people, in whatever way works for them, like for all men that are listening, just look into it, go for a small experience or something, read a book about it. It's really important, for yourself, but also for... our partners, our children, future generations. Your ancestors will thank you for it as well. There's a lot of work to do, and it's worth it. That's my experience.
What do you think is the biggest thing that the space provides for men?
Like Sacred Sons, or in general Menswork?
Just in general.
Space to be.
Yeah.
That everything that you experience is welcome, and that nothing is weird, nothing is unacceptable. That's all a story, and obviously there are laws in the world and things that are over the edge, and even that is something that you can reflect on and analyze, like, why did that happen? Why did I become that person? And am I still that person, or am I able to shift that narrative and transform and use that pain, that shadow, as my biggest strength to now inspire our children to choose a different path, to trust themselves, to not be afraid. Like, all these bigger topics that's the medicine. You face it, and it becomes your biggest ally.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a recent podcast, I think it was Kale, you never know how to pronounce his name.
I think Kale is like...
He was talking about the great abandonment of our time, severing, really, relationship from the mother. It's the core wound of humanity.
Wow.
And it was just, very powerful. Very powerful to keep tuning back into that everyone's facing that abandonment wound, because we have cut away the relationship and kind of not focused our attention on what we're a part of. It's more about generating or consuming, or it's a big one. And there's many iterations of that, I feel, in family. Yeah, how do your family see you in the spaces? Are you able to come back home, and do they see a change, or are they open to hearing how this work's impacting you?
Yeah, it's like step by step. In the beginning, I always wanted to, especially when I started to shift a lot inside myself, I wanted to let everyone hear about it, and oh wow, all these insights, and then that was the first layer of I guess, awakening, or however you call it. But awakening is a verb, it's not a destination. It's a constant evolution of discovery. It's an inner journey with external effects and experiences. And I realized then at some point years ago that I cannot change anyone, and I cannot push something that's also still of this patriarchy energy of, even if you look at, for example, marketing, there was always this saying of like, we got to penetrate the market. And I realized like, oh my God, that's literally the vocalization of the patriarchy in the advertising world to penetrate, right? And now where we are is more about invitation. It's more the feminine energy and more, asking consent. Would you love to learn more about Cacao? Instead of like shoving it in your face, it's an invitation. You choose. And that's also how I treat now the relationship with my parents, for example, that if they want to talk about it, then I'm open to share. And I sometimes share an invitation, like, hey, do you want to learn more about this or not? Or can I share a perspective or a reflection? And then if it's no, then I also respect it. Even though it's sometimes really hard, but it's still for me, and I feel also for them, better that I leave them in their own sovereign choices, and myself as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of questions in that, which I love, because I think questions are really what everyone should be focusing on. It's like inviting, asking the question, asking consent, or asking if you can share, and in that you're connecting. You're listening. You say, I'm here to listen to the answer, in that space, rather than directing first. Connect before you direct. That's always made sense for me.
Yeah.
So does that feed in to the Conscious 500 and what you're creating in that space?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of layers and topics connected to the creation of Conscious 500.
How was that born? Was it like a slow progression of what made sense over time to just network and bring in people?
Yeah, it's a good one. So I had the idea for a few years ago, and I saw, Fortune 500, and there are all these different lists, mostly ranking lists, where people or companies are higher or lower than somebody else. And I've been in some of those lists, and then I also, my ego was like, look at me, I'm in this list, I'm number blah, blah, blah. And then everybody, or a lot of people like it on social media. Oh, great job. And then, wow. And then I do think it serves a purpose, and I think it's good to get acknowledgement. But I started to think like, why is there not a Conscious 500? And then I Googled it, and then I couldn't find it anywhere. I was like, that's crazy. It feels like it should exist. And then I bought the domain, and but I couldn't crack it because I still thought it should be also a ranking system, and then see who is more conscious than who. Obviously, it's like not.
You're at the top, obviously.
Oh my God, that's the worst thing.
You're gonna found the company. You're gonna put yourself up there.
Yeah. Then I finally my ego gets like life goal completed. I'm the best. I'm the most conscious person in the world. No, but then I realized at some point that that is not about a ranking system, but it's 500 conscious leaders all coming together as one, and then support each other with the best insights, opportunities, collaborations, to elevate business for good. So that's the mission. And once that clicked, it was like this wave of energy that I've experienced a few times before, a company I built and another project I did, that I know that it's a universal idea. It's just this sense that I've developed that I know it clicks. Because I've worked all over the world, and how I know it is because I'm connected to a lot of people, and then people from different parts and also industries in the world. They are all responding at the same time, like, "Ooh, this is a great idea! Wow, how does this work?" And then, and even some friction, like people that don't understand it, and then I know it's really good because there is like something new emerging here, and
ruffles the feathers.
Yeah, it's like this that you cannot grasp it. You don't fully know what it is, and I also don't know. I also don't know what conscious leadership really is.
Yeah,
I know what it's not. So every time when it's not, then if I recognize the no, the yes gets stronger, and that's how it starts to evolve. And that's the path I'm following in the evolution of Conscious 500. So
I feel like that's been my path of just, I know what I'm not. I know what I don't resonate with. I know that I don't want to be. And it's just a constant process of saying no to more things over time.
How do you do that?
How do I do that?
How do you say no? Yeah.
This year's a big saying no. It's saying yes to less, but doing more in that process. So reaching more, growing a lot more, but with less. So how do I say no? I mean, I couldn't give you a recipe, but I am bringing in more challenging conversations. So with friends, I'll ask if I can challenge a lot more. I think I get that from Peter.
Of course.
But that's it. That's a process of me of understanding, are we aligned? Are we connected? Do you see the value I'm bringing? And do you see the value you're bringing? And are we mutually coming from the same place? And within that, it's saying maybe this relationship for now isn't serving both of us, you know, and just moving from that place. So it can be friendships, relationships, working aspects. But the truth is, it's very hard because for me, I've always seen, I'm inspired by a lot of different things. I'm a generalist. I love generalist movement. I love generalist things. I constantly like cacao. I'm like, oh, should I start a cacao company? But at the same time, I'm like,
it's more work than you think. I'll just give you a little behind the scenes.
I feel like I'm aware. I've failed a lot at business, actually. I feel like I've failed about 3 or 4 times of like starting something, but I'm not afraid to fail. I love failing forward and sort of climbing. Do you go climbing?
No, I don't. Not like, I wouldn't say I'm
you just go climber. Everyone's failing. You go there to fail. No one's really. You might reach the top 1 in 10, but you're failing all the time. So I love that. So I'm not afraid to be uncomfortable in that space, but yeah, it does take a lot of energy. You only have a certain amount, and where I'm going with that is I constantly bring in new things, and it keeps me connected. But to give something the best shot, you need to go all in on it. It does make sense.
Yeah,
but I've always felt like, do I want to put myself in that almost feels like a hole, feels like a pigeonhole. Like someone's put you in that, like you've created your own box and you're in there. Like there's a TED talk called Multi-Potentialite, and I connect with that. I'm like, there's multi-potentials I've got. But yeah, it's reining it in. There's a book I read called 10x beats 2x, and it's 10xing what you're doing, and it's saying no to more.
The Grant Cardone, or is that a different one? Some other financial.
Dan O'Sullivan, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, different. Similar theories. I mean, you've heard the kind of
the quantum leaps, like the whole sort of.
Yeah. It's definitely a universal framework to just double down on everything you're doing, because growing incrementally is like 2x, and then 10 is basically just saying you want to go for something. And it's easier actually to say, I want to earn 10,000 more this year. It's easier to say I want to earn 100,000 because there's only a few things that can get you to 100,000. There's many things that can get you to 10,000 extra a year. So it is simpler, but it's just harder.
Yeah, then you need those stronger no's also, and the yeses also are becoming more clear. But it takes courage, right, to really trust that and surrender to it and make that decision. And like last week, I was giving a speech at Booking.com at their new headquarters. It's 5 minutes from my home. I was on my bicycle, and I was ready to plug in my computer. I forgot my laptop at the bike back. I was like, luckily I live around the corner, but. I was also sharing there about the power of no, right? And how you can create like this sonic boundary with your voice in moments where it's important, that you want to speak up for inappropriate behavior maybe, or something that's over the line, or that you don't want to work in the weekend. But how do you actually say that? And part of why I thought about it was because when you said double down, like I used to do a lot of public speaking. I've done it for 10 years now. First time was TEDx in New York, and like 300 talks all over the world. And it's literally my favorite thing to do. But I didn't do it for 4 years. My last one was 4 years ago at Booking.com. And 4 years later, I came back But also with Cacao, we did a sound journey for their well-being. And I realized, like, wow, this public speaking that is the one I should focus on the most. Like, and because I love it so much. And it's really like that full yes that I feel with this is attracting the opportunities, like, instantly. Like, I started sharing that I'm doing this, and there's this people reaching out, hey, can you speak at our event, or can you go, will you be in this country to do that? And I was like, oh, wow, finally, it's this deep calling that I was, as a child, already loved. Like, I gave speeches in school about aliens, about theme parks, and I would go all in, like, get all the gear that they have in the theme parks, and the highest roller coaster in Europe, and this, and I knew all these things, like, and I loved it, and it's still like that. And now I speak about conscious leadership and Cacao, and I don't know what I'll talk about in 10 years, but I just love that transmission of inspiring the audience to see that they can do way more than they think, and they like really, I love the most when they walk out and they're like, wow, they feel like I'm gonna take a shift in my life in a more positive direction for them and for the world around us. So yeah.
Beautiful, man. So at public speaking, so you're pretty well versed in giving talks, and how do you formulate those talks? Do you have like could you have like a way of engaging and speaking to an audience that's kind of your own, and you have like a formula, or do you just connect to the how,
nice.
the why and the what?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, my number one thing that I tune into is the audience. So if it's one person or 10 or 1,000 or 100,000, I'm there for the audience and for myself, obviously. And it's not about me sharing or speaking, it's about the interaction. So for me, I also don't see it as a talk, but I see it as as an immersive experience where I really go deep in asking the organizer, like, okay, who is in the audience? Why are they there? What is the meaning of this conference, or what is the theme? And how do you want them to feel after this experience? And then I really go deep on that, so I have get all this input. And then I share based on what I have experienced or what I see, to see if that actually tunes in, if it fits. And if it fits, then I go another level deeper to see, okay, how can I co-create the best experience for everyone? I want to enjoy it, and I want the audience to enjoy it. I want the organizers to enjoy it, and that everyone at the end thinks like, wow, what just happened, And that fuels me for all the next conversations as well. Yeah, it feels, I mean, if you talk about music, it feels like I feel, or maybe it's my ego a bit, but I feel like a rock star. And not like, look at me, I'm on this stage doing it, but that feeling of next Friday is the talk, And I'm like, oh, there's going to be 1,000 people in the audience. And then I have my slides done, but I still want to fine tune a bit. It's like sort of playing the song one more time to see if it works. And then the day before, and then in the morning, I do a workout and go outside and meditate and eat healthy, and I'll be there 4 hours before and meet the tech guys and check and stand on the stage to feel it, and look into how is it if the audience is sitting there, okay, cool, and the clicker, how it works, and I go all in because I love it so much. And then once the moment happens that it starts, like I already won, as in like I've seen it, and I'm ready. Also, if the technique sucks or it doesn't work, I can still say it. And I can have a conversation or a Q&A, or I can just adapt to the present moment, like more and more. And just being authentic, like just speaking my truth, which keeps evolving, and being open for feedback also. I do a lot of interactions. I ask them like, so who has experienced exhaustion? I was asking last week. And in at work, like 90% raised their hand. I was like, yeah, I've been there, and I've learned a few tools that made my life in work a little bit easier, and I would love to share that with you today. And then, that's a moment of finding the common ground of like, I'm not higher than you. I also don't like to stand on the stage. I rather stand on the same ground, but sometimes there's a lot of people in the audience, and then it's helpful. But I feel like I just want to be part of it's like a big circle. That's how I see it. We're all on equal. I create this equal ground, and from there, it's easier to just have a conversation with each other.
Yeah, dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, connecting for sure. That resonates of just really being in the space with them, letting them be seen in subtle ways, like you just described there. That's definitely, whenever I've been in an audience, it's like connecting with a speaker. It's like actually, I believe them. Like I believe what they're saying. I believe what they're saying and where it's coming from. It's coming from a real genuine place who cares about me. Because you know when that's not true.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and
rehearsed or it's just not suited, yeah.
And also like I honor their time. I honor my time, I honor their time. I know that there are so many other things that they could do in that moment. So I also usually acknowledge that and just say like, yo, if you feel like I'm not making sense or it's going off, just raise your hand and we can shift, because I want to make sure this is the best possible experience for everyone.
Just like the podcast.
Yeah, same.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a good, you can share it, like your intentions. And no one said that before at a podcast. It's like, how can we make this the best podcast for you? And then like, let's chat about that. I'm not saying like, how can I give everything for you? Like you're actually saying like, how can we co-create this experience? And I think we can do that in so many aspects of our life. Even like sitting down with your partner for dinner, like how can we make this a really beautiful dinner together? What are the ingredients for that?
That's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
And also then letting go of the how, because we didn't know how this conversation was going to go. And
still don't.
Yeah, I still don't know. And I enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That really lands, man. Beautiful. I think sound I'd like to talk about. You say it's a big part, and I feel like we've kind of skipped around, and you talk about nodes, but that just reminds me of color grading. But the nodes, like how does sound feed into all of this? Do you bring that to your speaking gigs and things? Yeah,
sound is the golden thread in everything that I do. It has always been, and in the last few years I've been really integrating it in my daily life, both to enjoy and for work, but I also because of that enjoy my work, because I also became a sound practitioner. So I give sound journeys. It's not like a sound bath to just relax, but I combine breathing and meditation and the instruments and some shamanic elements to have a deep like inner journey, because I've traveled a lot externally and also internally, and I invite people to go on a deep inner experience, and I'm their guide. So I'm not the healer, and you're your own healer and shaman and guru, whatever you call it. But I know how it is to go deep inside myself. So I'm supporting you to go to the places where you want to go, and maybe not want to go, but might be good to check it out. And then the sound, like the vibrations of these instruments played with intention and in a specific frequency, it's also scientifically proven, but it brings you in a certain state of awareness, state of consciousness. It can either way calm down your nervous system, or it can, warm it up or make it be more intense. Sometimes with the gong, it's can go really like intense, like you feel like. But sometimes that part is needed, this discomfort, to go to a place in yourself that needs some attention, that needs to be seen. And it's always your own choice. So I have moments during these sound journeys where they're a bit like anchor points or moments of where you can choose. And then I say, okay, for the next part, the invitation is that you can go deeper if you want, and that's up to you. And then I play a sound or an instrument that, for example, the drum, the sacred drum, it's hanging there. There are specific frequencies that I can play where it's really like this deep groundwork, like under the earth, kind of. A lot of shadow work is usually with the drum, if you play it in a specific way, and then it can really bring up some very deep emotions or traumas. And that's always an invitation, like how deep do you want to go? And then I tune in, I listen to, I see their responses in their bodies, and a lot of times like all this tension, and somebody you see like, and I'm like, yes, that was another release, It could also be screaming, like scream, like the most terrifying sounds, but they're also emotions that have been stuck maybe for years, and then these sounds and the frequencies can help to release them from your body. And then after like going deep, I slowly like bring it up a little bit, maybe with some chimes. It's a bit more sometimes with the inner child work. It helps to feel calm and safe, and there are different instruments for different reasons, and I always ask for their personal intention, like why are you here, and then I tune in with the collective intention. I share my intention, and in that space I don't have to think about anything. It's just kind of intuitively happening, and I don't have to do it perfect, but I do my best, and then bring them home, and then we at the end we create a moment of reflection. And that's my favorite part, because then the wisdom that comes out of that somebody else's experience can heal me also, and you, right? By just sharing like, oh, I saw my grandfather and this thing, and now I realized I was always following his pattern that was not helpful, and now I could let go and thank him because it helped me to be where I am now. And then you feel those energetic shifts. So, yeah.
What's often your intention for those before you set into the space, like before you start getting influenced by others? Because I've only ever connected with someone who's guided me through a sound journey when I've felt their intention and it's connected with mine. It's been really hard for me to access. It's always just made me radically uncomfortable, and it just feels sticky and just not good. But then I connected with my friend Sanita, who I spoke about before, and I felt her energy, and I was like, oh, this is someone I can connect with. And that was like the biggest thing. So then I could I don't know what it was, then I started to enjoy. Not always enjoy, that's probably the wrong word, but it's like enjoy the process a lot better.
Yeah, it's the same as if you go on an external trip, and then you don't really trust the tour guide, and he's saying like,
it's all the same.
Oh, these snakes are fine. Don't worry. You can just walk through them. They don't hurt you.
Yeah.
And then they're like anacondas or whatever. But what I do, I really treat every sound journey as sacred. So I really take my time to prepare for it and make sure I'm in the best possible state to hold space for all these people, to respect their personal experiences and my own. There are a few things that I say before, but like, for example, a lot of times I would say, my intention is to be a vessel for the divine to come through me, to serve these people and honor their intentions, to create the best possible sound experience for their personal process. And I want to enjoy it. And then I hope, and then that's usually enough. And there are a few other, like I have some from Stacey Griffin is one of my teachers. Like I did the sound practitioner course with her, and I got a lot of interesting, like for example, there is this sort of prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi, and that's also being used by a lot of sound practitioners that you can say out loud, and then just unlock some other levels to guide people on these journeys. But it depends a bit on the context of, again, the audience, like the why, like how deep do we want to go? If it's a 1 hour sound journey at a company, it's a bit different than, a 2-day ceremony in the middle of the jungle with plant medicine.
Yes, absolutely. I think that I catch myself a little bit uncomfortable tuning into what's needed or how I can speak and change my language to meet an audience that might not be ready to hear this, but that's again my judgment of what's true for them or what's gonna land. So it is a bit of a dance, but I think there's a lot of power in that. But I definitely catch myself like, I don't know, it's like how do I speak the language that's going to land for them, but then not compromise on like just what's true for me and what I believe to be, more of the language that's needed,
Yeah, I do recognize that, and how I deal with that is by being authentic, and just honoring my own perspective and also their perspective, and knowing that sometimes some words they don't resonate or don't understand it, and accepting that also.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times I hear people speaking and I don't understand everything they're saying, but it does something to me, and I can kind of interpretate the parts that do resonate, and the ones that not might be an invitation to discover, like, why don't I get that? Is it triggering me? Because it's always in me something that's maybe uncomfortable that I could project on you, but I'm not doing that. I want to look at that inside myself again. So it's also this, like a mirror to your soul. Like every person is a mirror to your soul, and even though the language then doesn't resonate, it's like, why is that actually? What does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something in, do I connect fully with what I'm saying? Am I really like being in integrity of what I'm saying? And if I am, then there's not really anything to be concerned about or worry about. So if I fully connect with that, then if it's going to land, it's going to land. You know. Yeah, man. What's happening this year for you? What's moving in direction? What are you calling in this year and saying no to?
Nice one. Well, I'm calling in more public speaking opportunities for sure, because it's for me a beautiful way to do what I love the most, which is public speaking, and share about the companies that I'm building and the projects I'm part of, and it all amplifies each other. So it's I also want to invite more sound and music in my talks. I've been doing that a little bit, but I want to actually maybe play a song during a talk on my guitar, or play one of the instruments I have, and really create it more like these immersive experiences to really like a sonic chamber of wisdom and insights and mirrors and sound and in that people feel more connected with each other, with themselves, and get these insights, you know, that their mind is opening and their heart is opening, and that's what I love the most, and kind of warm it up for the next speaker, that they'll be like, oh nice, the audience is in a good spot. Because sometimes an audience is really cold, and if you then step in, it can be quite challenging, and it's also nice to sort of there you go. We're good. They feel good now.
Help the next person.
Yeah. So that's for public speaking, and then me and my partner and our dog, we want to move more into nature. Zen is still chilling here. more a garden and more space. Like, it's beautiful here in Amsterdam, and but it's getting a bit small with the three of us, and I miss nature. I love to just open the door and let Zen walk barefoot in the garden, and my biggest dream is to have a music studio in the garden, and then a teepee for ceremonies, and then invite like epic people to come over, and we sit in ceremony, and then part of the ceremony is create music and sounds that create more awareness and more love and more beauty, and that's the dream. So maybe that's the next house or the one after, I don't know, but
that's great.
I'm ready for it.
Love talking about that vision. Anything else in the vision?
I also see that at the end of this year, the Conscious 500 is really established as a global network. I don't know if we have already 500 members by then. That's also the how I can kind of, I'm learning how to let go of the how it should be. But I already have a lot of people that are already in my network that want to help to build it locally in different parts of the world. So Australia, we have now 15 European founding members, and that group is slowly evolving and growing. And then there's people in the US that want to build it, and Africa, and so it's in the Middle East. And so I see this global network that has local circles that we also start to connect with each other and share resources and insights, and and I feel like the kind of this holistic abundance and the insights that will come from that is wow, that's beautiful. So
sounds good, man.
What about you
this year? podcast, growing that. I have to give it everything this year. So yeah, you're helping, so I appreciate you. How can we get this cacao to be sponsored the podcast? That's my vision.
It's already in it now, so it worked out.
It's true. And yeah, just really focusing in on how I can not lose sight of the mission, but bridge the conversations to more mainstream audiences, and connect people with the themes of ancient wisdom and self-leadership and being in circle, being in community, connecting with land and food, and just bringing those conversations into more mainstream spaces. Doing a few live podcasts would be beautiful, but that's already unraveling. I'm already getting a few requests in to host a podcast somewhere and just do a live talk. A few more, like hosting workshops, festivals, and then the Menswork, doing 3 retreats this year.
Wow.
Nice little promo for me, this. Do 3 retreats this year, and then continuing my online offering, which is for men. I've got like a small community, which we go with themes throughout the year, and it's a good space. It's kind of closed, confidential, private group, and then we open it up now and again. But it's good, man. Just concentrating on those things. Honestly, year by year, I'm doing less and less, but more of less,
Yeah.
Feels good.
Sometimes it's needed to, at least in my experience, that kind of spread the wings and see what's all possible, and then kind of narrowing down more and more. And it's difficult because it's like, oh, this is also cool, and I could do this. And then, I also want to start a men's group, and then like, but I have a cacao company, I have Conscious 500 doing sound journeys, and then I like to support Sacred Sons. It's already part of it, but then that's a lot already, right? And I have a dog and a partner, and it's family, and so the more it gets sort of, I guess the choosing is very powerful, because that's this 10x or 100x, and then from that we make more impact to support others. Also, it creates more opportunities, and
you create more freedom as well.
Yeah,
when you fully pick something.
Yeah,
whether that's a partner or a dog, and you pick and you choose every day. And you ground within that, and then you have a lot of freedom to take that in a space that feels good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Choose yourself. I think that's the most important. Every day.
Yes. Yeah, my friend's got a saying, if I love myself, what decision would I make? If I love myself, how would I interact with this thing? Or well, like if I choose myself, if I choose myself, would I spend my morning doing this? Yeah, it's a good invitation. Anything else you want to speak to? Any other invitations? Any other final thoughts, feelings?
Now more question to you, like what would be the most epic podcast guest and location you can imagine? And then maybe I know that person, or somebody listening can connect it to it, because I really love how you love this, and see how we can create that. Yeah, beautiful, man. For you, yeah. That's great. Yeah, I'm getting to know who you are as well through that invitation, because you seem like someone who's like, how can I bridge or make someone else really fulfill what they're doing, and in that supports you, connecting and networking. And I'd say the guest is, I've got a big list. I'll show you the list. But I'm hesitant to say who's my number one. I think I said Tony Robbins or someone last time someone asked me that. But it's not that. There's no one out there that I'm like, God, that person on this podcast. Maybe Jim Carrey or something, someone that is kind of, they're not in the podcast world, because there's what I see and observe is so many people just doing the circuits of podcasts. And then I find myself wanting to interview them, but really it's the people that aren't on podcasts that I want to have conversations with. So it's people that have really, really impacted me. But yeah, there's no one that's coming to mind at the moment, but there's definitely people that are speaking to powerful things. More of my community and my friends, and those people that I want to get on again in
in a more impactful production, that I can use a bigger platform to speak to the themes, because I think some of the people that I'm connected with already are like doing it, are like really speaking to old ways of being and connecting to the land in ways that really feel good. So it's just bringing in people that same as that. It's like supporting others to lift and to provide and to connect with. So yeah, but there's a guy who has a podcast, and he has on his signature and every email a PDF of like all the people that he wants to. It's a great way. If you know any of these people, have a look. They're inspiring. They're inspiring people that I'd love to connect with and get on the podcast. It's a whole host of people. So yeah, I definitely know there's merit in doing that. Charles Eisenstein, I want to get on.
I love his work. Yeah,
he's such a gentle energy.
The more beautiful the world can be. Yeah. I mean, all of these people are one handshake away, or for everyone.
Absolutely.
So it's also, and sometimes it's the moment's not there yet, and then it's here, and like, oh wow, this is what I've been asking for, but I didn't know how, and then this surrender into it. But there's also the ask. I for a very long time struggled in asking, like what? And people ask me a lot of things, and then I most of the time help them. Not always. I also had to learn how to say more no. But again, if the yes is more clear of a relationship that's being built in trust, then it's easier to create these opportunities for each other.
Yeah.
And it's not that I expect something back from you, because it doesn't have to come back from you. It doesn't have to come back from anyone, but I know it will. It's just the law of cause and effect. This happens here, something else will come back from this side. It's always.
Absolutely.
And that trusting is also really beautiful.
Yeah. I often say just making the decision to do something is more powerful than the thing itself. Just in terms of that energy, it's like, I'm just deciding to do this, and what comes with that. So much more comes with making a decision than actually the decision itself.
Yeah, it's true. Like Saturday, there is the first elevation day. That's how we call it for Conscious 500. And a few people canceled, and then I booked the location already. My mind was like, should I still? And then I had this realization, like, I don't care if it's 3 people. I'm doing it. It's happening, and I trust this. I'm going to make the best of it for everyone that will join. And then that realization was like, and I'm excited for it. Like I'm, talking to a vegan chef and then a friend of mine was going to do a sound journey, and then the pieces just come together, because I trust that it's better to do something when it's aligned than think about it and then and then regretting that I half did it, and then your first episode probably wasn't super good, if you compare it to the quality
it's one
now.
Of the best, actually.
Or maybe the best, whatever. But let's speak for myself. Like the first song I wrote was pretty good, but if I compare it to the music I'm now writing, it's
absolutely
different. It's different level, different understanding, and there's more craft, by doing it. It's the only way to learn is just doing it.
Yes, it is so true. I think if you're constantly going year on year, looking back at the old version a year ago, God, and then that's succeeding, right? It's really just incremental steps, or 10xing every year, whatever it means. Exactly. Beautiful, man. Thank you, brother. It's been amazing to share the space and connect. Yeah, man. Anywhere people can find you, what would you point people to in terms of, because didn't you have an Instagram and you cancelled it, and then what went on there?
Just the summary was that I was going through quite a dark period, so I really wanted to switch.
Just a summary.
Yeah.
This is incredibly dark period.
Nice ending, right? And on a high note. But I needed to really go deep inside myself, and I noticed that I was really numbing myself with a lot of social media, and then getting so addicted to it that I realized I really want to just face it all, what I am experiencing now. And it took me 1.5 years, dark night of the soul, digging deep.
Let's dive into that, man.
It's a whole episode, I think. I removed my Instagram account, including the followers, at 7,000 or something, and I wanted to experience it to see what it does with me. And it was really difficult, actually, first to make the decision, because it was also connected to a lot of business things, and it's I'm going to lose my network and all these things. And And then I finally made the decision to remove it, but then I get an email from Instagram. So you have 30 more days before your account will officially be removed, and then it will actually be gone. I was like, oh my God, I still have 30 days that I could still go back, which is so annoying. But then it was 30 days over, and I took a deep breath. I was like, all right, I'm letting go. And then I took 8 months. I didn't use it at all. No LinkedIn, no Instagram. I kept my LinkedIn and Facebook, but I didn't use it. And it was really, I got a lot of things done in myself, but also just creation, songs, music, inner work. And I missed it also. I missed seeing what's going on. I missed seeing what my friends are doing. And it was harder to do business also, because, I feel Instagram or social media is definitely, it's part of, or it can be part of your reality to relate and to connect. Like, I saw your Instagram and scrolling a bit because Peter recommended you, and I was like, who is this guy? And then I based on that, I felt enough trust that I could invite you to my home and have this conversation, right? So,
it does. It's a window into someone's experience, and if you connect with that, it's definitely a way to, it lends itself to getting to know someone a little bit more. And I think it is doing that. It's like, seeing all the people that you've connected with and you trust them. So there's going to be a lot in that. It's interesting how the psyche works, because if you see someone that all your friends are following, you're more inclined to follow them. So there's more trust there. There's just more. It can do that. It can in an authentic way, if they resonate with some of the things you're saying. It can allow you to come in to your own home.
And
invite people in.
And also I feel like I'm getting better at it, to really see how authentic someone is, or at least how I perceive it is, because there's also people that have their online presence, and then you meet them in real life, and then you're like, wait, is that the same person? That's weird, And my experience, for example, with you now is that I feel you're authentic. It's what I saw online is what I see now in front of me, and that strengthens my gut feel and my trust in you and in myself. And in Peter. It's like, it's a nice triangle of trust that's growing stronger, as we speak. So that's, I think, the good way of riding the wave of these technologies is to be aware of what it can do, and if you consciously interact with social media or with technology, is a great ally. It's beautiful. It's like on equal grounds. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just what it is, and how you treat it is how it will treat you.
I could say so much on that, but we'll end there, brother.
I think it's
Appreciate
a good ending.
you, bro. It's a good ending.
I was like hoping for a nice ending. I was like, maybe that's the ending.
It's the ending. Give us a hug, man.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.